The fluorescent lights of Terminal B buzzed overhead as I stared at the departure board, my heart sinking with each refresh. Flight 447 to Chicago. Cancelled. The red letters seemed to mock me, just like everything else had for the past 24 years of my life. "Excuse me," I said to the gate agent, my voice barely above a whisper. "My flight was cancelled. When's the next one?" The woman barely looked up from her screen. "Next available flight is Thursday. That's 3 days from now." 3 days. I had exactly $47 in my checking account and a job interview tomorrow morning that could change everything. The startup I'd been courting for months had finally agreed to meet me. A small software company that needed someone who understood their niche market. It was my shot at proving I wasn't the failure everyone thought I was. My phone buzzed. "Mom, how's the big important trip going?" I stared at the message, my chest tightening. She knew how important this was. She knew I'd scraped together every penny for this ticket, had been living on ramen for weeks just to afford it. "Flight got cancelled. Trying to figure out alternatives." Her response came immediately. "Have fun walking home, loser. Maybe next time you'll listen when I tell you these stupid dreams of yours won't amount to anything." I read it twice, then 3 times, the words burning into my retinas. 24 years of this. 24 years of her cutting me down every time I tried to rise. When I'd graduated summa cum laude from college, she'd said I was showing off. When I'd landed my first programming job, she'd called it playing with computers. When I'd been laid off during the pandemic, she'd said it proved she was right all along. The worst part? She could have helped. Mom wasn't wealthy, but she had savings. She'd spent more on her weekly spa appointments than my ticket cost. But helping me succeed had never been her priority. Keeping me small, keeping me dependent. That was her game. I walked to a quiet corner of the terminal and called my childhood friend Marcus. "The interview is tomorrow," I said without preamble. "I'm stuck in Denver. My mom just texted me, 'Have fun walking home, loser.'" "Jesus, Alex, what are you going to do?" "I don't know. I can't afford another ticket. I can't afford to miss this interview. And I'm so tired, Marcus. So tired of her treating me like garbage." "What if—" Marcus paused. "What if I told you that you don't have to take this anymore?" "What do you mean?" "Remember that app you built in college? The one for managing inventory in small businesses?" "Yeah, but it was just a class project." "Alex, I've been using a version of it at my company for 3 years. We've made millions in efficiency gains. And you know what? My boss wants to buy it. He wants to buy the rights, develop it further, scale it. He's been asking me how to contact you." The terminal seemed to fade around me. "What?" "$78 million, Alex. He's offering $78 million for the full rights and your consultation on development." I sat down hard in the nearest chair. That can't be real." "It's real. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you without it seeming too good to be true. The contracts are ready. All you need to do is sign. $78 million. I thought about Mom's text message, about her dismissive laugh when I'd told her about the interview, about 24 years of being told I'd never amount to anything. "Marcus," I said slowly, "can you overnight the contracts to Chicago? I have some business to take care of." I used my credit card to book the next flight, a red-eye that would get me to Chicago with an hour to spare before the interview. As the plane taxied down the runway, I began to plan. The interview went better than I'd dared hope. The startup founders were impressed by my background, my passion, and when I casually mentioned that I might be coming into some capital soon and would be interested in investing, their eyes lit up. They offered me the position on the spot. Head of development, significant equity, 6-figure salary. I accepted, then spent the rest of the day at a law office, signing the most surreal documents of my life. $78 million. The app I'd built as a naive college student, thinking it was just homework, had been quietly revolutionizing how small businesses operated. The lawyers explained everything: how Marcus's company had been legally using it under educational fair use, how they'd been documenting every improvement and efficiency gain, how the buyout would work. By sunset, I was worth more money than I'd ever dreamed possible. I didn't call Mom. Not yet. Instead, I flew back to Denver and drove to our neighborhood, the same lower-middle-class suburban street where I'd grown up, where Mom still lived in the house Dad had left her when he died. I parked across the street and just sat there for a while, looking at the small ranch house with its peeling paint and overgrown garden. My phone rang. Mom. Where the hell are you? You missed dinner. I made your favorite. She did this sometimes, swung from cruel to caring without warning, as if the nasty text had never happened. I'm outside, I said. I watched her pull back the living room curtain and peer out. She was wearing the ratty bathrobe she'd had since I was in high school, her hair in curlers. When she saw my rental car, she dropped the curtain and called back. What are you doing sitting in the car like a creep? Come inside. I walked to the front door, keys jingling. She opened it before I could knock. You look terrible, she said by way of greeting. Did you get that job? I bet you didn't. I told you it was a waste of money to. I got it, I said quietly. She blinked. You got it? Really? Really. Head of development. Good salary. Equity stake. For a moment, something like pride flickered across her face. Then the familiar hardness returned. Well, don't let it go to your head. You'll probably find some way to screw it up. I stepped into the house that had been my prison for so long. Everything was the same: the worn carpet, the outdated furniture, the smell of old cooking and disappointment. Actually, Mom, something else happened too. She was already walking toward the kitchen. What now? You know that software project I worked on in college? The one you said was a waste of time? Alex, I don't want to hear about your computer nonsense. Are you hungry or not? Someone bought it, the software, for a lot of money. She stopped walking. How much money? I let the silence stretch, watching her back tense. $78 million. She turned around slowly, her face cycling through disbelief, shock, and something else. Something calculating. 78 million? That's right. After taxes, I'll clear about 50 million, plus my new job. I'm rich, Mom. Really rich. The transformation was immediate and nauseating. Her posture changed, her voice softened, her eyes went wide with what she probably thought looked like maternal pride. Oh, honey, that's wonderful. I always knew you had it in you. You know I've always supported your dreams. No. The word hung in the air between us like a blade. No, you haven't. You've spent 24 years telling me I'd never amount to anything. Yesterday, when my flight was canceled and I was panicking about missing the most important interview of my life, you texted me, "Have fun walking home, loser." Her face went pale. I didn't mean. You meant every word. You've meant every cutting comment, every dismissal, every time you've made me feel small and worthless. And you know what? I have screenshots. Every text message. I've been documenting it for years. I pulled out my phone and showed her the message thread. Years of cruelty, all dated and time-stamped. Why would you keep those? She whispered. Because part of me always knew this day would come. Not the money. I never expected that. But the day when I'd finally be strong enough to stop taking your abuse. She tried to recover, forcing a laugh. Abuse? Alex, don't be dramatic. I'm your mother. Everything I did was to toughen you up, to prepare you for the real world. You did it because you were miserable, and you wanted me to be miserable too. You did it because Dad left and you needed someone to blame. You did it because seeing me succeed would mean admitting you were wrong about everything. Tears were starting to form in her eyes, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no guilt. Just a cold, clear certainty. But honey, I'm proud of you. I love you. You're my son. Love isn't hurting someone on purpose, Mom. Love isn't spending decades making sure someone believes they're worthless. Love isn't texting, "Have fun walking home, loser," to your child when they're stranded and desperate. I stood up and walked toward the door. Where are you going? Panic was creeping into her voice now. I'm going to live my life. Without you. You can't just leave. I'm your mother. I raised you. I turned back to her one last time. You raised me to believe I was nothing. Congratulations, you almost succeeded. Alex, please, I need you. The house, the bills. Your father's pension isn't enough. And there it was. The real fear. Not losing her son, but losing her safety net. You'll be fine, I said. You managed before I had money. But now you can help. You're rich. Family takes care of family. Family does take care of family. That's why when my flight was canceled, you should have offered to help me get to Chicago. That's why when I told you about my interview, you should have said good luck instead of mocking me. That's why you should have spent the last 24 years building me up instead of tearing me down. I opened the front door. Goodbye, Mom. You're really going to abandon your own mother? After everything I've done for you? I paused on the threshold. Yes. I'm going to do exactly what you taught me to do. Put myself first and not worry about anyone else's feelings. Her sobs followed me to the car, but I didn't look back. 6 months later, I was living in a penthouse in Chicago, running the development team at a company that was now valued at over $1 billion thanks to my investment and expertise. I'd bought a house for Marcus and his family, set up college funds for his kids, and donated millions to organizations that helped young entrepreneurs. Mom called sometimes. The first few calls were angry. How dare I abandon her? What kind of son was I? She should have never wasted her time raising me. Then came the bargaining calls. She was sorry. She'd been going through a tough time. Couldn't we work this out? Finally came the desperate calls. The house needed repairs. She was behind on bills. Couldn't I spare just a little? I never answered. Marcus asked me once if I felt guilty. She's still your mother, he said gently. She was a mother in biology only, I replied. Real mothers don't spend decades destroying their children's self-worth. I did hear about her through neighborhood friends. She'd had to sell the house, moved into a small apartment. She worked part-time at a grocery store, barely making ends meet. She told everyone who'd listen about her successful son who'd abandoned her, painting herself as the victim of my selfishness. Let her. The truth was in my phone, in years of documented cruelty. Anyone who wanted to know the real story could see it. A year after that night, I was at a charity gala, something for underprivileged kids interested in technology. I'd funded a scholarship program, and they'd asked me to speak. As I looked out at the audience of young faces, bright with hope and possibility, I thought about the scared 24-year-old I'd been in that airport terminal. The most important thing I can tell you, I said to those kids, is that no one gets to define your worth except you. Not your family, not your teachers, not your friends. If someone in your life consistently makes you feel small, then they don't belong in your life, no matter who they are. After my speech, a teenage girl approached me, eyes bright with tears. My mom says stuff like that to me, she whispered. She says I'll never be good enough. But you made it, right? Even though your family didn't believe in you? I knelt down to her level. I made it because I finally stopped believing what she said about me and started believing what I knew about myself. You're going to be amazing. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. That night, Driving home through the glittering Chicago skyline, I felt something I'd never experienced before: complete peace. The anger was gone. The hurt had faded. All that remained was the absolute certainty that I'd made the right choice. Mom had texted, "Have fun walking home, loser," when I needed her most. She'd expected me to come crawling back, defeated and dependent. Instead, I'd walked into a new life. A life where success wasn't just measured in dollars, but in dignity, respect, and the unshakable knowledge that I was exactly who I was meant to be. The scared kid at the airport was gone. In his place stood someone who'd learned the most valuable lesson of all: sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be the person someone else insists you are. I never looked back. 5 years later, I received a letter forwarded from my old address. Mom had died. Heart attack, sudden and quick. The letter was from her lawyer, explaining that she'd left everything to me in her will: a few $1,000s, some old jewelry, and a note. "Alex," it read in her shaky handwriting, "I know I wasn't the mother you deserved. I was angry at the world, and I took it out on you. I know it's too late to fix what I broke, but I want you to know that I spent every day after you left regretting the things I said. I was proud of you. I was always proud of you. I just didn't know how to show it without admitting I was wrong about everything else. I love you. I'm sorry. I hope you found happiness." I read it twice, then put it in a drawer. Some apologies come too late. Some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. But for the first time since that night I walked away, I felt something like forgiveness. Not for her, but for the scared young man I'd been, who'd taken so long to realize his worth. The letter ended with a postscript: "I kept all your articles about the scholarship program. I told everyone at the store that my son was changing lives. I know that doesn't make up for anything, but I wanted you to know." I donated her estate to the scholarship fund. It seemed fitting, using her final gift to help kids like I'd been, kids who needed someone to believe in them when their families wouldn't. That night, I stood on my balcony looking out at the city, lights, thinking about paths not taken and choices that define us. Somewhere in those lights were kids like I'd been, scared, uncertain, told they'd never amount to anything by the people who should have loved them most. Tomorrow, I'd keep working to prove that those voices were wrong, that walking away from toxicity, even from family, wasn't betrayal. It was survival. The scared kid at the airport had thought his mother's cruel text was the end of the world. He had no idea it was actually the beginning.